What's up, guys? So, I want to give kind of a review on a show called Moonrise. Now, before I get to that and all of its glory and not glory, I do want to start off by saying if you want to see like the unedited full expansion where I kind of show a little bit of clips of this show and the amazing audio, head on over to Rumble because unlike YouTube, they don't copyright and flag every single time somebody farts or coughs. So it's a lot easier to post that stuff there. But if you just want to have me in the picture talking about it, then feel free to stay here. But before we get to Moonrise, I want to talk about another show very briefly, like a Dragon Ball Z last time on this episode kind of thing, and that is Attack on Titan. The reason why I want to talk about Attack on Titan before I talk about Moonfall, before I talk about New Moonrise, is a few reasons. One, there are similarities. So a lot of times in my review for Moonrise, I will reference back to Attack on Titan, or it'll kind of sound like a parallel. And there is a very good reason for the scoring I give to Moonrise whenever Attack on Titan is scored where it's at as well. How they take a character like Eren, and he is this main protagonist who, as a kid, just wants to just kill all the Titans for what they did at that very first episode. And they take him. And before I get to that, this review of what I'm going to talk about with Attack on Titan is going to be nothing but spoilers. That show is already like, the ending is like 5 years old now. So if you haven't seen it, stop now, because I'm going to ruin the entire ending of Attack on Titan here in a second. Anyway, as far as Moonrise, it'll be, I have to spoil some small parts of it to review it, but I'm going to try not to do heavy spoilers on it. Continue. I love how they take a character like Eren Yeager, as a kid, wants nothing but to protect his family, what's left of his family. He doesn't have a family, so his friends and his community by killing all the Titans. That's why he goes into the Scouts. That's why he does everything he does to protect his world and his friends in it. They take him, and at the end of the movie, or at the end of the show, through these long transitions over like 6-7 seasons, they take that main protagonist, and he is the ultimate antagonist at the end. He is the pinnacle of death. He is the Grim Reaper. He is the main bag. He is evil incarnate at the end, with solid reasoning. Like, you can understand where he's coming from. Even Mikasa understood where he was coming from to a point. Even Armin understood in a way where Eren was coming from in his rumbling. Now, the reason why I mentioned Attack on Titan is because Mihisashi, he was a writer on Moonrise, and I'm willing to bet he was in some way, kind of form or fashion, a writer on Attack on Titan because of the overarching similarities between the two shows. That's enough of Attack on Titan. Just keep that in your forefront while I'm reviewing Moonrise. Now, Moonrise. It is a cyberpunk-esque kind of genre where it is a futuristic dystopia where we have people living on the moon at this point. So we have colonized moon, and we have still people on Earth, obviously. And it follows a young kid named Jack, or Jacob. His name is Jacob, but he goes by Jack in the show. Jack and Phil, they are best friends when they're kids, and they grew up on the moon. They grew up in like this little village type thing on the moon, like this almost a boarding house where they kind of go to school and they live the same place. And the something happens and the place gets destroyed. I won't spoil what happens, but that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to stay away from bigger spoilers. But anyway, something happens, the place gets destroyed. Now, in the effort to save themselves, Phil puts Jack in an escape pod heading for Earth, and Jack leaves and Phil stays behind. And then we don't know what happens to Phil at that point of the show. Now, it fast forwards to whenever Jack is older. He is now in his very young 20s. He has here's the problem with Moonrise. It doesn't explain. It has a lot of stuff, but it doesn't really explain how or why certain things are there. So somehow Jack is in a family who is like uber rich and they're high class and all this stuff. Like he has money out the ass. And it might have like a one-liner explain why or how that happened, but it doesn't really go into detail of how he became who he is as an adult. But anyway, it fast forwards from him when he was a kid to this point, and he's looking at the moon, and he's never, to his recollection, he's never been there. And that's the weird thing. Like, he doesn't remember ever living on the moon. He doesn't remember being a kid on the moon. So whenever he got to Earth, they must have neuralized him because he doesn't remember shit from that. He just knows that there's a calling to the moon for him. I mean, he knows that people live there, that it's colonized. But he is super rich and he has this party, he has his friends over. And during this little escapade, the leader of the moon declares war on people of Earth. And the whole purpose is that the whole thinking is that the people on Earth, you know, it's a governmental kind of paradigm where people on Earth are mistreating the moon people, and the moon people are living basically in the projects and on trash, and they're not getting help from the people on Earth. So they're rising up and they're going to basically cut off the connection between the moon and the Earth, or whatever, defeat the Earth people. And they blow up a ship, and it falls, and it falls right on where Jack, his friends, his parents, and everything are, and it kills his parents and a bunch of people there. His friends don't die, Jack doesn't die, but everybody else dies. And then it fast forwards again to, like, I think it's 4 or 5 years later, or a year later maybe, and Jack is now in this military recon assault team, basically heading to the moon to take revenge. And his friends, unbeknownst to him, are there, and one of his really close friends who has she wants him. She ends up being a major in this little unit. And the way that happens is you just take an aptitude test and it says you're a major, and then she's a major. And then he took an aptitude test, said you'd be great as like a force recon. So that's just what he's given. That's all the explanation that we get. And so they all go to the moon and they fight a bunch of battles. Some people die, and he finds out who the main bad is, which is, spoiler, it ends up being Phil, which is pretty much told right at the beginning. But then there's this internal turmoil with Jack. He meets someone very special that has this ability, basically, that can communicate with this AI type of core. And in a nutshell, Jack starts having flashbacks of when he was a kid. He knows he was on the moon. He knows who Phil is after he sees him. Like, it's all this like memories coming back to him, but it doesn't really explain how he or why he doesn't remember them in the first place. Because whenever he sees Phil, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's Phil. Like I know him." Like, yeah, but you don't remember ever living on the moon. Like, how does that work? So at the end of the day, the good guys win, the bad guys lose. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's 18 episodes, and that's it goes to that extent. I mean, it's hard to explain without completely wrecking the show, without just throwing out every single spoiler in the world, because everything you can talk about with Moonrise would spoil the entire show for anybody wanting to watch Moonrise. So that was like the very base, that like very, very base synopsis that I could give without completely and totally ruining the show for anybody that wants to watch it. And I know that me talking and saying that, my explanation of the show made it sound horrible. Here's something you need to remember. I didn't want to spoil anything. I did the best I could to review the show with maybe one spoiler, and that's the whole Phil's the main bad. But you find that out in like episode 1. It's pretty obvious. Or is he the main bad? You just have to watch to find out. But you could take that concept combined with how Attack on Titan worked and kind of see where it went. Now, the good thing about this show, what I liked about the show, I liked the show. I thought the show was great. I thought that it had extreme potential to be a masterpiece, to be fantastic. It had everything I could want. It was edgy. It was futuristic, kind of a cyberpunk feel, had good action, had very good emotion, had great story. The thing that is very good about it is, Wit is a company that animated, Attack on Titan, one of my favorite animes of all time. The animation looks very, very, very good. Of course, you'll always have those tropey things, whenever somebody's kind of at a distance, they just don't have a face. You'll have those really weird kind of things, which is in every anime. So that's there. The CG in this show I thought it was done very, very well. I didn't have any issues with it. There was a couple, very small things that they did that the CG was kind of weird. Like it would show like a at the beginning, it would show a space shuttle lifting off and going up to the moon. And the CG on that, you're like, that could have been better, but it wasn't horrible. The acting was good. The voice acting was great. I watched it dub. The storyline was really good. And the story itself kept me wanting more. So that in itself, the wanting more, is the show's biggest drawback. Like I said, it was made as a miniseries. Even at the end, this is the finale. This is the end. Don't ask for more. You're not getting any more. If you have a semi-chub, you might as well just let it go. You're not getting an ounce more of this. Goodbye. That was kind of how they ended it. So with that, that's one of the biggest issues that I have with the show. It very easily could have been a minimum of like 4 seasons and been just right up there with Attack on Titan, right up there with Vinland Saga, right up there with the greats. But they cut their legs out so bad that it was so much in a very short time. And I think that's the biggest crime that they made. A lot of stuff was left to the imagination of the viewer to come up with answers. Why doesn't Jack remember ever living on the moon? And then all of a sudden he remembers everything. Like it is that quick. Who are his parents that adopted him apparently on Earth? what did they do to get him so filthy rich? How did he meet his friends? What's the relationship with his friends? There's a very, very big, dramatic, emotional event that happens in the middle of the show that is supposed to pull at you and make you feel like very emotional, kind of depressed, angry, but it falls short because you have no connection with these people because the show goes too damn fast. Now, I'm not saying to freaking One Piece or Naruto the thing and make it 99% filler. I'm saying to just give a little bit of explanation, like just go a little bit further. Why did you make it a miniseries? That's the biggest crime that it commits. Is it is too freaking short. I know a lot of things, like a lot of times we'll say, "Oh, it was too short. I wanted more because it was just such a good show." This one is a great show, but I need more because it doesn't explain anything. It just happens. Another thing that it does that I wasn't a big fan of, and normally this is fine for me, but like I said, they don't explain shit because they don't have time to. It's too damn short. But another crime that they commit is they do a lot, and I mean a lot, of time jumps. And it's only because of the mini series umbrella they're under and the time frame that they have to tell the entire story that should be like 4 seasons in 18 episodes, 18 30-minute episodes. So they do a shitload of time jumps. One of them was kind of annoying to me because if they would have just swapped, like, I think it was episode 2 and 3. If they would have just swapped 2 and 3 around to where 3 was 2 and 2 was 3, then it would go in perfect chronological order to that point. But they swapped them so that way you'll be watching, and then something happens in the future that was like a serious thing, and then they go back in the past to show the lead up to it. Like that didn't make any sense to me. I'm fine with like a kind of a time jump thing. Like it's fine when it's done right, but that one didn't really have a point. They should have just made it chronological, and it would have had a better impact, I think. But there are time jumps. There's the time jumps from whenever he's a kid escaping the moon to being an adult and already having these friends. We don't get any kind of backstory or anything. It's just there. And then there's a time jump later on after a big event / reveal that I don't want to spoil, but there's another time jump that's like 1 or 2 years later. And then it's just like, we're supposed to understand exactly what happened in that 1 to 2 year gap without ever being told what happened in that 1 to 2 year gap. It just goes straight into freaking titties on full display action sequence. There's no like, hey, you remember, 6 months ago whenever da 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 da. No, it was like, hey, this event happened. Oh yeah, it's 2 years later now. Let's go kill these people. It's like, what is going on? So I think that's the biggest. So the 2 biggest complaints I have is it's too damn short. It needed to be more to really explain the world and get you a little bit more attached to the emotions that are trying to be pushed in such a short time, because you don't really get the emotional effect that they were wanting to in this short of a time. And then the time jumps, I think, are very, very, they're just not done right. And I think that if they had more time, they wouldn't have to have the time jump. So I understand why they did the time jumps, because they were on a time limit, but at the same time, it made it fall short. So all of that in a nutshell, I give Moonrise a solid 6.5, very low 7 out of 10. And that is strictly because of the time frame of the miniseries umbrella and the time jumps. It really freaking soiled what they had done. On the plus side, the animation is brilliant. The story is amazing. The music is probably one of, if not the best, in any anime series I've ever had. Like the music in this show is freak. I like it is god level. It is amazing, amazing music in this show. From the opening sequence, the ending, it's everywhere. It is freaking fantastic. There was never once I was like, no, this music in this show is the best that I've seen. I think the seven, I give it a good 7 out of 10. I can't really justify a 6.5. A 7 easily, easily could be a 10. It could be a 10 all day, and I would recommend it to every single person alive. But I know I would recommend it to everybody to watch, even though it's a 7. But just be prepared for the weird time jumps, the no explaining of what's going on and how they got there, and the it's just too short. It could have been a 10 so freaking easy if they had just done like not even 4 seasons, just like 2 seasons. It could have easily been a 10. But I think that's just, it was just cruel to cut the knees out before they even started walking. But Moonrise was great. Moonrise was great and bad at the same time. And it's heartbreaking that it is bad because it was so good. I go watch it. Go watch it because it is a great show. Like my explanation sounded horrible. That's just because I didn't want to spoil anything. But if you're a fan of Attack on Titan, like 99% of people are, go watch Moonrise. You will see the parallels. You'll see the similarities. And it's a great show. Just watch it for what it is because we're not going to get any more, unfortunately. And that's where it falls short. That's about it.